Hey, so this is just a quick reminder about Saturn and Capricorn and some of the most important things we're going to get out of this particular transit. As we move into 2020, technically Saturn is going to go into Aquarius. However, it's only going to be there for a couple of months before Saturn goes backwards and comes back to Capricorn, where it will remain for the rest of the year. So we're having 3/4 of next year still with Saturn and Capricorn, just a brief the exit into Aquarius and then back again. So this is good though, because what this is going to do is this is going to give us a chance to go back and basically give us a second chance to do things right or do things better now that we have some sense of how to work with this Saturn energy. The reason I'm doing this particular little video segment to add to the the 2020 year ahead horoscopes is because we've got some impressive things happening this year coming up. One of which includes obviously, this heavy emphasis of Saturn and Capricorn remaining for the entire year before it finally leaves Capricorn. But the other thing is that we're going to have a lot of Mars in Aries activation and challenges to that Saturn and Capricorn for 2020. So it will not be a simple year. Not that anything's been simple so far, and certainly not be easy, but we can work with this and we will come out ahead. But there are some things for our personal lives and our personal development that we should probably focus on to get the most out of this, rather than a lot of insomnia and headache. Sorry, having an eyelash moment here. So the thing I want you guys to focus on is Saturn and the definitions and meanings of Saturn, right? So on the one hand, we know that Saturn represents the past, it represents tradition, it represents rigidity, and it also represents conservatism, right? And taken to an extreme, it's all of those things to their worst nth degree. Like any planet taken to an extreme, it's worst nth degree. We also know that on the other side of this, Saturn represents structures that will stand the test of time. Saturn also represents wisdom and experience and longevity and quality, right? And also standards, like the highest executive standards we can aspire to in a given set of conditions, right? Saturn also represents the struggle. It's those places in our chart where we struggle with things that don't come easy to us, that feel extremely awkward or painful. And represent a lot of not happy. Oh, sorry, my back. Speaking of Saturn, not a lot of happy go like la 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 la, kind of like Jupiter or Venus. But what Saturn does give us, if we work through our Saturn issues, is a place where we shine the most, where we have the most to offer, where we gain the most and give the most. When we get through that, we work through our issues, not cover them up, not compensate for them, not convince ourselves that we're fine and I don't need to work on myself. I'm perfect. It's everybody else is crazy. Not those things, but when we work on our internal stuff, the things that we struggle with, and we get through it, we become much, much better, more radiant, more beautiful people for it, because we have more to give other people unselfishly. And at the end of the day, even though Saturn creates the tendency to want to keep everything for yourself, right? This grip of control kind of thing, and very stingy. Saturn's very cheap and stingy on the negative side. It's very pragmatic and resourceful on the positive side. Depends on how you're using it. So even with all of that, it still actually has a lot to do with unselfishness, but practical unselfishness. So it's not about, it's not about giving away the farm, it's about sharing your last can of beans with a stranger, because they clearly look hungry and it's going to be miles before they see another house, right? It's the if you're a Christian, it's that Christ energy about charity, to strangers. So, and faith that you'll be taken care of and there'll be more, and this is all going to work itself out. So, with that said, as we move through 2020, Mars will be hammering all those Saturn lessons home. So like literally like a metal, which Saturn rules, by the way, beating metal and shaping it into something else requires a lot of intense effort to get something that unyielding to lend itself to a new form, right? And it's going to be the same thing with your Saturn issues, right? So wherever Saturn is in your natal chart, That's where you're going to have to do the most work this year to get the most out of this transit and become like an amazing, honestly, I promise you, an amazing human being when we get to 2021. It is also uh, where you find transiting Saturn, right? Not your natal Saturn, but transiting Saturn in Capricorn right now, where you find that in your chart is where you're going to find a lot of your external challenges are coming from, where you seem to be getting the most resistance, the most pushback, and the most um, insistence to prove that you really are serious about this thing, whatever this thing is, right? So, because Saturn is also about commitment and responsibilities and obligation. So, these are the things to consider. The other thing that I think was interesting, I touched on this earlier when Saturn first in Capricorn at the beginning of the year, and we'll go back to it again. So Saturn rules metals, and specifically iron, okay? Well, when you're weightlifting, they call it pumping iron. And one of the things that we know when it comes to weightlifting, it's the same maxim or truism for Saturn, and that is that the struggle makes you stronger. So in weightlifting, in order for you to get physically stronger, the minute the weight gets easy, you have to go to the next level of weight that gives you struggle, that makes you struggle with it. And you do that until it becomes easy, and then you level up to the next higher weight. The struggle makes you stronger. In life, the struggle makes you stronger. So as soon as things get easy, it behooves us to go find challenges that we have to struggle with to master so that we can become stronger psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and better, right? Because we're acquiring advanced skills when we struggle with things. We're learning things that are new for us, right? So we're leveling up. The difference is when we choose these things, it's much easier than when they're forced upon us. So as we go through 2020, there will be a lot of situations where struggle and restriction is forced upon us, giving us pushback, right? Which means that we, have to push back against it, to be able to keep up, or we're going to get steamrolled by it. So finding a way to be resourceful, be pragmatic, plan, organized, find new structures, stress test the existing ones. All of these things are Saturnine concepts and keywords, right? And these are all the things that are going to be required from you as you deal with these external situations that are giving you the opportunity to become stronger, because it's the struggle that makes you stronger. The other thing to remember is that along with that, this year, the most important thing you can do is to get into your skeleton, your closet of skeletons, and start facing your bears. So all those unresolved issues, all those hurts and pains and resentments and grudges, you know what I'm talking about. You know you've got a few, right? All those things, it's time to pull them out of the closet, examine them, and give them a proper funeral, right? And literally lay them to rest and bury them once and for all, so that you can be lighter and more mobile and better able to move forward in your life. Because right now we're hitting literally like a pivot point, okay, for everybody, where it's, you're either going to move forward or you're going to get left behind. Like there's no in between. We don't get to stand on the fence anymore. So it's one or the other, lead, follower, get the hell out of my way. So that's what we're moving into with 2020 and 2021. So use this Saturn energy to your benefit. Remember, if you remember nothing else about Saturn, and especially Saturn and Capricorn is about wisdom, experience, and legacy, the things that we leave behind, the things that will stand the test of time. Saturn is also about the struggle, because the struggle makes you stronger. So you can choose your struggles and you can embrace them, and you can look at it as an opportunity and an exercise to become stronger, to become more resilient, be more roadworthy and timeless in your ability to move forward and withstand the test of time and all the insults and assaults of life. Or you can convince yourself that you've got nothing you need to work on, everything's just fine, you are going to cling to things as is, try to maintain the status quo, which is also a very Saturnine thing, because you don't see a future worth being a part of. You don't see a place for yourself in the future. So the only thing you have where you feel safe, that you feel comfortable with, is the life you've had up until now, the past. So you may choose to cling to the present and literally try to hang on to the past by not letting anything move forward. You could do that too. It won't work. It's never worked for anybody before now. It's not going to work for anybody moving forward because the past is behind us for a reason. So maybe the better question, if that's where you're kind of at, where you're trying to maintain the status quo, is to ask yourself, what is it about the future that looks so frightening that you don't see a place for yourself in it? So much so that rather than adapt and move forward into it, you're desperately clinging to this fantasy of what life used to be and how life should be based on the past. So 2020 is going to be an outstanding year in a lot of ways. It won't be easy, but it'll be outstanding. And for those of you who are willing to do the work, here's the big secret in all of this. Astrology doesn't, the stars don't compel, the stars just reflect, okay? So at any given time, you can opt out of getting anything out of these situations. We can't make you benefit from anything happening. We can take a chart, a birth chart, full of promise and potential, but only you can realize that. Only you can activate that. Only you can make the commitment to realize the best potentials of yourself as a human being, not a big celebrity or a big money person or, Mr. Big Shot on campus. None of that. But as a whole, dynamic, rich, wonderful, complex human being with so much more to offer other people coming up behind you. Only you can make the commitment to be that person. So the stars don't compel, they just give us a mirror of what's going on. So it'll be the same thing this year moving ahead. The stars aren't going to compel you to become a bigger, better, stronger person and to work through your boogeyman in the bushes and your skeleton in the closet and all that sort of stuff. It's not gonna make it happen for you, but it will give you many, many opportunities, literally until December of the 2020, to have a second chance and do it right or do it differently. So remember, Saturn in Capricorn's lesson, the struggle makes you stronger, and strength is what makes you beautiful. Have a good one.